Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and my 12 Days of Christmas Challenge. Today we are going to be talking about Polyomino Games. Now, what do I mean by Polyomino Games? I am talking about games where you are utilizing and trying to fit Tetris shapes into a certain area to score points. So, if you're like me, you grew up playing video games, you probably played some Tetris, maybe some Dr. Mario. These were definitely puzzle style games, but can be very addicting. And that's what I think I love about Polyomino Games is it's a puzzle. In its purest sense, it's a puzzle. And it's very spatial. So if you're a spatially oriented person, Polyomino Games can be right up your alley. It's all about, fitting those geometric shapes into the space provided to score points. So this list it's again just 5 games long, so not many, but is ranked not necessarily by how excellent the game is, but again by the challenge that fitting the polyomino pieces into said space to score points. What kind of challenge does that provide? So if you are the type of person who is looking for kind of more of a brain teaser than a board game, wants something that is much more concrete, spatially oriented than, say, a narrative-driven game or a dungeon crawler where you're chucking a lot of dice, these are going to be the types of games for you. So as with a lot of my videos on this countdown here over the past week, I do have one caveat, and that's a game that's not going to be on this list because I've never played it, and that is Feast for Odin. It's a game on my, wish list, or whatever you want to call it, my bucket list of games. I just have never seen the need or really the ability to pull the trigger on purchasing a copy. It's a very large game, not very cheap game. And I'm sure I would probably love it, but I've already got quite a large collection. I really just want to be able to find someone who has the game and either allow me to borrow it or sit down and play it with me. So I've never played Feast for Odin, so I honestly can't say, hey, this is the top polyomino game, but I'm sure a lot of people out there would say Feast for Odin is. It's a huge worker placement game where you're then essentially gaining resources and you have to place them onto your player board. They're polyomino pieces in and of themselves, and as you fill out your board, you are crossing off rewards and coins and things like that, and points or negative points, really. You're covering them up, and it's got that Norwegian Viking theme to it, and it's a lot of people's on their top 10 all-time games list. It just happens to be a game that I've never played, so it's not going to appear on this list, but I wanted to give it a mention because for some people that would be their top polyomino game. So without further ado, let's take a look at my list. First up on the list is Dinosaur Island Roar and Write. This one is pretty fresh. Has just come out by Pandasaurus Games, and I've covered this one recently on the channel, and you can see here that there is a grid. This is a roll and write game, where essentially you're rolling out some dice, you're drafting those dice, then you're using those dice after you've drafted them and gained the resources off of them to place them in these kind of basically worker placement spots. All of this in an effort to gain resources, whether it's DNA or coins or roads, to make dinosaurs, build buildings, and then put the dinosaur paddocks and or buildings that have to be a specific polyomino shape into this grid right here. So this grid represents what your park would look like from an overhead bird's eye view. And you are attempting to build this stuff out and connect them with roads so that you can make it ideally you always have to start up here at this HQ entrance to the park. Ideally, you want to get to this bottom exit here because that's worth the most points by connecting the buildings and the roads all together and be able to draw a continuous path from HQ to here. But once you go to any one of these exits, you can go back, but you're not going to score points again for it. You can only score off of that exit once. So ideally, you're going to go like over here, then down here, and then maybe over here. So it's really like fitting your polyomino shapes. There's a lot of good things going on about this game, but right now I'm just going to talk about the polyomino. It's, fitting the buildings. So you can see up here are 3 unique buildings that are going to be different every game that have some, like this one's a pretty big shape right here. And then you have these 3 buildings here that are always in every game and are smaller shapes. And then you have your dinosaur paddocks, which are going to be like a 2x2 square, a 3x3 square, or a 4x4 square. So little square, big square. And obviously you have to fit all that into the park, all while making a path make sense. And so that is, a very spatial element to the game. The reason it is not higher on the list, if I was just ranking these as games, ranking the games on how good they are, and they just happen to have a polyomino element, this one would be much higher. The reason it is just sitting at number 5 is that the polyomino portion is really, it's not super hard to get your buildings to all line up, and it's only a portion of the game. It's not like the majority mechanic of the game. So, but it's a game I highly recommend. It's a roll and write, can be played solo, multiplayer. They even have an app now. Pandasaurus Games has an app. So if you don't like actually drawing, you can use the app and just drag and drop those shapes into place. All right, but that was my number 5, Dinosaur Island Roar and Write. Number 4 is Tiny Towns. Tiny Towns is a great family weight game. Sits in that, it's not a party game, but it's not like a serious game. It's a great filler, things like that. I've played this like on family reunions where I'm teaching like a wide range of from adults to older kids. And essentially what you're doing is you're drawing resources out. When it's your turn, you basically get to call out a resource of your choice, and everyone around the table has to choose that same resource. And then you have to find a spot on your board to place it. And then once you have placed the resources in a specific pattern, which is a polyomino shape. Here, for example, here to build this cathedral, this person needed to put a yellow above a purple, and then next to 2 blues, and then a red, and then a gray. If they do that, then they get to pick all those pieces up and place their cathedral miniature, which I'm guessing is this. This looks like, this was their unique card that was unique to them. They probably built that first, put it right here. They picked up all those resources and placed it right there. So you have to kind of spatially think about where are things going to go, and then where is it going to permanently be, because then I'm going to have to build around it. I'm going to have to put down resources around it. Also, at the same time, you never know what someone else is going to call, so you may have to be thinking, okay, I'm going to be placing out stuff for a barn over here, and my cathedral right here, and then a tavern down here, and that covers all the stuff, but so you really are having to like think ahead spatially, not just in the moment, which is kind of more what Dinosaur Island is. Oh, here's the thing, make it fit, take it towards the exit. This one is much more think in advance, think 5 steps ahead. Where am I able to fit this once I build it? Which space is it going to occupy? But it is, again, all about filling in your resources to create these polyomino shapes, which then will build out these cute little Meeple buildings here. It's a game that can be played with the text on the bottom here that makes scoring differently, or honestly, what I have done when I'm playing with a broader audience is just give each type of building a point value, and it's pretty straightforward which ones would be worth more in the end, and just say, okay, like this person has a ton of wells on their property. Wells would be like 1 point, whereas cathedrals are going to be worth 6 or 7 points. But anyways, Tiny Towns, great little game, but again, it's all about thinking where can you fit those polyomino shapes and then build them with the resources. All right, my number 3 is another roll and write, and that is Cartographers. Cartographers Heroes recently just started delivering to backers. I don't know if it's in retail yet, but it will be very soon. And all Cartographers Heroes is essentially just, it's a standalone game expansion, so you could pick up just Cartographers Heroes, but they added heroes. Formerly there was just like villains in the game. Here's a great little picture I can see. Here you can see the purple little horned creatures of the villains that are going to mess up your map. Now in Heroes they just add heroes where you can place the hero down there, maybe he does like an arc sweep and takes all these guys out. But anyways, Cartographers is not a roll and write, it's a flip and write. So you're going to flip over one of these cards here, and it's going to give you a shape that you have to draw on your map that we just looked at. And that shape's going to have a type, right? So you're not just drawing a 1x3 or whatever you want to call this shape. You're going to draw a 1x3 river. Now, that makes a difference because these scoring cards here are going to tell you how rivers and plains score, how do forests score, how do, just in general, anything score, how do cities score, housing ones, which are red. And to top it all off, like in the first round, only A and B scores. You're only scoring your trees and your waters and your plains. And then you go B to C, and then you go C to D. And so not only are you having to figure out how to fit it all onto your map, which gets smaller and smaller as you progress through the game, but you got to figure out how to fit it to then optimize your scoring, but also the scoring, whatever the scoring is for that round. So again, similar to Tiny Towns, having to think like 3 steps ahead, kind of playing out your board in advance, but also it's all very random about, which of these cards is going to come out. You're not sure, and is a monster going to come out and really screw you over? But again, it's all about fitting these polyomino shapes onto this map and making them coincide with each other so that you are scoring the best according to these cards, which are randomly drawn out each turn. So it's an excellent little game, excellent game to play solo. It is a beat your own score or try and acquire this high score variant, but it's such a charming, quick little game. It's not one that you can super complain about that the solo variant is really just a beat your own score. This also was my number one game to play with my friends when the pandemic really hit, and then we were super staying away from each other, and we could play this over Zoom. And I would simply have my Zoom camera pointed down at the cards so they could see them. I sent them a link to print off a free print and play version of a blank map sheet, and then we just played. And that was it. I explained the rules to them, and then we would sit several times and had Zoom calls with our friends, had game night over Zoom, in which we play cartographers, and it works really well. It's actually rather seamless. As long as one person owns a copy, you can play this over Zoom. So that's my number 3, cartographers. All right, my number 2 is Kingdom Rush Rift in Time. Kingdom Rush is one of my all-time favorite iPhone apps, phone apps, games to play on an iPad or phone when you're just sitting there and you got 5 minutes to play. It's a tower defense style game where you constantly have these hordes of enemies rushing at you, and you're building up your towers to try and take them out before they get to the main gate and take all your hearts out. So what they've done here is taken a fast-paced tower defense app and turned it into a board game. And what's amazing about it is it really does work. So what you have here, you can see, is you have various towers that you're going to start with them basic, and you're going to be upgrading them throughout the game. But then you have these trays, which are going to have horde cards randomly flipped over onto them, and you stack every scenario in a certain way. So, but those horde cards have, let's see if we can find a better picture of what a horde card looks like. Here you go. Here you can see that this one horde card has like an L shape, and then this 2x2, and then this 1x3 shape here. So if this horde card comes up, you have to cover it with those shapes. Now you can cover the blank spaces, but for example, this card, you can't cover that middle space. Well, your buildings and your heroes, you can see, come with all of these various shapes that they're going to shoot out, and depending on them which direction you aim the tower is where which bad guy spawn tiles you can hit. And so basically you're saying, all right, I'm firing off this building, I'm placing it down, I'm firing it off, and so you pick up the little polyomino shape, and then you figure out how you want to fit it on the board, except the basic ones, you can't rotate them. They have to go down at this orientation. Once they start getting advanced, you can rotate them. And so I think it is done really well. I think that there was some improvements to be made, and I hope that they have addressed those, because they're coming out with another big box standalone expansion, Elemental Uprising, that's hopefully coming out in 2022. It's been a long time coming since the Kickstarter, but anyways, I think they did a really good job of implementing a fast-paced app, tower defense app, into a turn-based board game. It does work, but it's hard. It is not easy. If you want a tough puzzle, if you want a brain burner, I have never honestly even attempted to play this with someone else because of all of the thinking. I feel like I would just take over the game and the other person would be like, why the hell am I here? This one is tough, and that's probably easily the biggest reason why it's number 2 and not number 1, because it is straight polyomino game. Your attacks are little polyomino pieces and you're placing them covering up polyomino shapes. So everything about this game is just polyomino puzzle, but it is a hard puzzle, a very hard puzzle. They did not shy away from the difficulty in this one. So we'll see whether they lightened up a little bit with Elemental Uprising, but either way, it's still a fun game, and if you're up for the challenge, then go for it. Or if you are a fan of the app, it's a great thing to check out, because I think that there's a lot of ode to the fans stuff here. There's a lot of stuff you're going to recognize, and as a personal fan, I was very happy with what I got out of the game. So that was my number 2, Kingdom Rush Rift in Time. Rift in Time is the board game versus Kingdom Rush, Final Frontier. I forget what some of the apps were called. But anyways, let's get to my number 1, and that is going to be Isle of Cats. Isle of Cats I've brought up, I know, at least one other time on the channel within this Christmas challenge. But here you can see a great example of the polyomino shapes. So in Isle of Cats, you're tasked with rescuing cats off of this island before a vicious marauder comes. You got to get as many cats onto your boat within a certain number of rounds, and then you peace out. And depending on how you group them onto your boat, and which rooms they're on inside your boat, and whether they're in families and things like that, depends on how you score. And there's various scoring elements that are going to change from round to round. Here you can see here's like what your options are for cats, and here's like a big shot of your board. And so you can see these are very unique polyomino shapes, every single one of them, and it's your objective to get these here onto your boat and fill up as much of your boat as possible. Sometimes you're going to do that with treasure, to help fill in the gaps, and ideally you fill up this entire boat. But again, like I said, cards like these are going to give you various ways to score, and so they're going to drive your decisions as to how you place those cats onto your boat. Also, you're obviously playing with either against the solo or with other players, and so there you're competing for the same cats. And again, it is a puzzle. It's all about how you can fit all of these pieces together and to fulfill your scoring conditions to the best of your ability. And it is it's a charming game. It can be challenging, but not overly challenged like Kingdom Rush was. And I think the solo variant is just incredibly unique. And so that's why it's my number 1 polyomino game, that if I am sitting there thinking, I really want just like a puzzle, I want a brain teaser and not a board game, I don't want to get into a huge narrative or anything like that, I may say, I want something really quick, and I'm going to go to like Cartographers or Dinosaur Island. But I may say, I want something a little heavier than that. I don't want to get my ass kicked, so I'm going to go to Isle of Cats. So you really can't go wrong with this. It has a family mode, it has a solo mode, it has various ways to increase the difficulty. So it really is just such a great game in a box. I love that the inside of the box gives you a place to put your cat. It's Isle of Cats, and people are always posting pictures of their cats sitting in the box. I guess that's the thing cats do. I don't have a cat, and if my dogs sat in the box, they would break it because they're a lot bigger than cats. So, but there you go. That is my number 1 polyomino game, and my top 5 polyomino games. Again, if you are looking for something that's more of a brain teaser and a puzzle than, say, a board game, then polyomino games are a thing you should be checking out. And these just happen to be my 5 favorites. So if you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos, including the remaining, we're down to the final 4 videos of my 12 Days of Christmas challenge as we count down to Christmas here of 2021. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.